What's up, guys? Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. So I had this idea. I was thinking, I do a lot of these installs for customers, and wouldn't it be neat to just live stream them while I'm doing them? So normally whenever I do a live stream of an install, I'm like trying to do like an instructional thing where I'm explaining how to do it. But in this case, really today what I'm going to do is basically just buckle down and get these installs done, but do it live so that customers can see it happen. They get to see everything that happens in the installation process, and anybody else who wants to hang out, we can just chat about whatever. We don't necessarily have to focus on the instructional nature of telling you how to do this, because you can go reference the other streams that are more instructionally focused than this one. This one is we're just getting work done here. So that's the plan, and let's get to it. We've got 3 customer installs we're going to knock out tonight, and then I'll be doing another stream probably on Monday to knock out a few more customer installs, and we'll see how this goes. So you can see the order number from, if you are a customer who's watching, the order number is listed up in the corner of the video. So you can see which console is being worked on if it's yours. Hey William, you received yours in the mail Thursday. Awesome. Did you get a kit or did you buy a console from me? A pre-modded one. Oh, awesome. You got a kit. So, have you attempted the install yet? I've had a few different people do the install, had a little bit of feedback, which I like to see. Haven't had a chance to. Well, hey, look. Not everybody can jump right on it, and I understand that. But I do, once you do the install, if you want to give any feedback, I would be happy to hear it. I've gotten some feedback from other customers who have completed the install process, and it's been nice to hear from other people. All right, so we're working on order number 4118. If that's you, and you happen to be here watching, this is your PS2. So they sent in the PS2 and an iFlash solo, and this PS2 is a 70,001, so this is going to be a V13 and it's got a retro gem in it, which is cool. So we'll go ahead and get to work on this one. First thing we'll do is go ahead and get it opened up. Now for these streams, when I'm doing customer installs, I'm going to be working under the microscope mostly whenever it comes to soldering, because it'll be a lot easier for me to work faster under the microscope. And you'll still be able to see what's going on. It just may not be as clear, just because the microscope's not quite as good as this main camera. And also, you're going to be zoomed in pretty far in there, so. You know, if you don't have free MC Boot set up yet, you can actually, if you want to go ahead and do the install, and you don't want to wait until you get a MemCard Pro or go out of your way to buy or create a free MC boot. Let's see here. A little bit overexposed there. You can actually use free DVD boot and just pop OPL onto like a USB stick, and you can launch with a free DVD boot. You can just burn a disk with free DVD boot and launch OPL from there, and you can play it without having free MC boot. You just have to have a disc burned, a free DVD boot disc burned. Okay, Retro Gem install is a little bit of a jumble. Haven't seen a Retro Gem install on a V13 yet. This is the first one I've seen. But the way that the flex is folded up is a little bit messy. I don't know if that's how it's intended to be done, or not sure. But it should not be an issue for us. Oh, you know what? Before I do a full reassembly, this is something I got to get better at with customer installs. We need to test this thing first to make sure to make sure that if anything's broken, that we didn't do it. Let's pop over to Game Capture real quick. Grab a. Speaking of free DVD boot, we'll just pop in a free DVD boot disc and see if that will boot. Looks like it's a no-go for free DVD boot. This laser is probably out of calibration. Let's pop in an actual game disc. Okay, so it is booting game discs. It's just out of calibration for burn discs. Oh, real quick, before we completely shut down our testing, let's also double check that the Retro Gem is functioning. Yep. Retro Gem's running too, so we're good there. So we know everything's working. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the Retro Gem flex cable. And then we'll just finish disassembling the drive. Oh. Okay, this has the digital audio soldered in, so we're gonna have to remove that real quick so we can take off the top plate. We'll just have to solder that back in whenever we put it back together. Okay, so there's our motherboard with the Retro Gem Flex still in place. We're gonna go over to the microscope and we're gonna do the rest of our soldering. We're gonna do all the soldering there. So we're working on the top side of the board right now. Okay, so we got our main flex here. Just gonna go ahead and tack one of the anchors in place. Okay, we'll go ahead and anchor the other side here. All right, we're well anchored. Now we'll start soldering the points here. All right, that's top done. Go ahead and flip it over. Get the bottom done here real quick. And then we'll be done with the main flex. I like to, after doing a bunch of these, I've kind of changed up a little bit of the strategy. I like to tack a couple of these pads in place here so I can make sure I get the resistors lined up really nicely. Because the resistors are still one of the tougher things to solder on here. Okay, that all looks good. I'm gonna flatten the flex down a little bit here. Just retouch this area just a little bit. And then we'll go ahead and anchor this down. Alrighty. It all looks pretty good. Okay. No shorts or anything, so we're good there. I've done the iFlash a retro gem, but I have not done a mod chip in the same console yet. I don't install mod chips as a service, so I haven't had any experience with it, but there are a couple of other people who have installed them with mod chips already. One of them was Modsville USA. He was one of my original test installers who installed one of the early revisions of this kit, and he did it on a PS2 with a retro gem and a mod chip. So I know it can be done. I haven't done it myself. At this stage, I like to take the motherboard and pop it back into the shell to make sure that the SD card lines up well. And come on, focus. So it looks pretty good. Let's see if an SD card goes in smoothly. It goes, but not super smooth. So I'll have to fine tune the positioning of the power board here. I highly recommend testing before you solder the power board completely in place to make sure you get your alignment right with that SD card slot. And in this case, I think what I need to do is heat this up. See. There we go. Got that reset wire out of the way. Let's give this another try. Yeah, this one's just kind of tight. I don't know what the issue is here exactly. No, you know what? It's fine. Once it's actually screwed down in place, it should be perfectly fine because it does go in and out just fine there. All right, so we will proceed. So the next big thing we need to do is prep the iFlash board. We use my hot plate to do this. While it's heating up, we'll go ahead and do a quick test to make sure our soldering is good. We'll pop the SD card into the iFlash board. Go ahead and plug in the iFlash board. Then we'll take a short wire here, put a little bit of solder on the 3.3 volt pad on the power board, and a little bit of solder on the 3.3 volt pad on the flex cable. And we'll just connect these two together temporarily for testing purposes. Now we don't have a heat sink installed right now, so we're not going to power up this PS2 for very long. We're just going to briefly power it on with FreeMC boot and see if the hard drive is detected, and then we'll shut it back off. And it did not detect the hard drive. Okay. So we'll check a couple of things here real quick. First thing to check is that we're getting power. So we'll power this up and we'll test the 3.3 volt pad. Oh, idiot. I didn't finish soldering in the power board. No wonder it doesn't work. You have to actually solder in the power pad on the power board for it to have power, believe it or not. Okay, so now we'll test again. And there you go. Hard drive is detected. So our soldering is good. Now we can pop this back out. And the hot plate is hot now too, so we can go ahead and remove this SD card slot. Gonna peel the sticker off the bottom of this because it will melt onto the hot plate if you leave it on there. All right. So if you are using a hot plate to remove the SD card slot, it does make it easy, but you got to be careful. You don't want to heat up this area over here where the chip is, because this area that's under the epoxy, if you heat that up, it reflows the solder underneath there, and then that could be a big problem. Yeah, if you're sending in your console to be modded, then you have to send in your own iFlash board as well. I supply the iFlash to PS2 kit, but you'll still need to bring, send in your own iFlash board. Okay, SD card slot is off. We'll let that cool down for a minute. I've been responding to everybody in the chat. What are we talking about here? Of course this is live. Why wouldn't it be live? Now, something I noticed while I was working is that unfortunately, the soldering was not very robust on this retro gem, and it came disconnected. So I'm going to fix this. This doesn't really fall within the scope of the install that was paid for by the customer, but whoever installed this retro gem before did not do a particularly amazing job, so it came apart. So I'm going to patch that up for him, so they have a working retro gem again. Okay, that looks okay. Okay, I think that retro gem install is going to be recovered at this point. Try to be gentle with that flex cable going forward, but it should be much more sturdy than the way it was soldered in originally. Okay, let's hop back over to the A cam. There we go. We're doing order 4118 right now. We've got 2 more orders to do, so I'm not sure which order you are, Snowkim, but whichever one it is. If it's not this one, it'll be probably one of the next ones. Okay, we're going to go ahead and reinstall the top shield and the retro gem. And get our 3D printed brackets in place. I've got my 3D printed brackets dialed in to where that they can be printed in stacks like this, and then they just snap apart like that, which is pretty sweet. It makes mass producing these significantly more feasible. $40.67, yeah, you'll be today. They're not in order. They're in order of when I receive them. That's how I have them cataloged in my installation queue. So if I receive yours before I receive other ones, then yours gets done first. That's basically how it works. We'll go ahead and remove this temporary power wire because we don't need that anymore. Uh, I can't say anything officially PCI Tech, but you might want to watch out on Macho Nacho's channel here in the coming month or so. As far as heat, there you really shouldn't see any kind of additional heat from this iFlash mod because it doesn't put off much heat at all. They were designed for iPods originally, so they're fairly low power devices. So they don't produce much heat at all. The power board produces a little bit of heat, but that heat sinks into the ground plane of the PS2 motherboard, so it really just spreads around kind of evenly from the point where it's installed at. Okay, real quick, I want to make sure that the retro gem is fixed. So I'm going to pop this back together and test the retro gem. And then we'll proceed with the rest of the install. Okay, looks like we're good. Let's just do the self-test real quick. Yeah. Okay, so the retro gem install is fine. Just needed to be reflowed. What? No, PC Tech. I have PCI Tech. I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get this iFlash board soldered in place. Oh. Got to knock one of these 3D printed posts off here. Okay, that's the iFlash in place. We'll go ahead and get the SD card extension installed real quick. Oh, and you know what? I need to solder in these other ground anchors. You're damn right you heard nothing, PCI Tech. Because there was nothing to hear. All right. Well, there you go. That's an install right there. Let's go ahead and, before we button it up, do another test. And then we'll be able to call this install done. All right, let's pop in our test SD card. Pop in our FreeMC boot. Pop in our controller. Oh. Unplug this for a second here. I need to reinstall the digital audio wire. Okay, no short there. Wait. Yeah, no short there. That's good. Okay, this is going to auto boot into OPL. And there's our game list. Let's go ahead and load up Metal Gear Solid 3. I like to use Metal Gear Solid 3 because I can load it and start a new game, and it plays a combination of FMV cutscenes and in-game, in-engine renders for like, there's like a half hour before you even get to play the game at all. So it's a good test game because you can just let it go and kind of do a stability test that way. Honestly, the temperature issue, I'm not sure how much of an issue that is. I mean, PS2 Slims are compact, but they're pretty quiet. I don't know. I mean, the fan is not very powerful inside of a PS2 Slim.
After the end of World War II,
I've never seen it to be a specific problem with the Slim, like overheating or anything like that, but I mean, they do get a little bit hot. But I wonder, so I mostly work on 70,012 models, and those have the combined Emotion Engine graphics synthesizer chip. And I wonder if that chip is more power efficient or cooler than the ones that have the separate Emotion Engine and graphics synthesizer like this one does. I have no idea, but I am curious about that. It stands to reason that the process node is probably smaller for the combined EEGS chip. But, alright, here's what we're going to do. We're going to let this run in the background for a little while. And while that's running and testing, I'm going to go ahead and go back over and open up another PS2 and start soldering that one. So we'll make sure to keep all of this PS2's screws and everything over here. And the shell we'll put over here. So that PS2 is over there. The next order is 3925. Let me update the order number. All right, we'll work over here in this spot. All right, this is a 70,012, and it does not have a retro gem. You know, I don't have a thermal camera, but I do have a handheld laser thermometer somewhere around here. So I can check temperatures at particular points, but I can't, I don't have a thermal camera to kind of like look at a device like that. It would be nice to have. I've thought about getting one. Oh, you know what? We're in a tough spot here. I have to test this one before I start working on it. But the other one is still running, is still testing Metal Gear Solid 3. What do I do? What can I do? I need to get more PS2 Slim power supplies. That's what I need to do.
The head of the CIA has finally given us the green light for the virtuous mission.
Virtual mission?
All right,
No, the virtuous mission.
I'm gonna shut that down. We'll shut that down for now. I'm gonna plug this console back in for more testing afterwards, but I'm gonna go ahead and pull this one and put it back in its shell. And then I'll continue testing in the shell. Man, I really don't like the way that the folds work out on this retro gem. Oh, you know what it is? It's the antenna. I had to move the antenna to get to the fan connector. So I think originally it was installed kind of like at an angle. No, that's not right. I know what it's running up against. It's hitting this post here. Question is, how do you avoid that? Let me go look at the Retro Gem install guide real quick and see where they want us to be installing that. Well, that's kind of useless. The guide doesn't say where to put the antenna. The guide does not say where to put the antenna when you're installing on a 70,001. And I am running into the antenna here. This is a problem. It was installed at some kind of an angle, but I can't remember exactly how this was in here. Let's see. Something like that, kind of angled in there. Let's see. Okay, that must have been it there. Ugh, the retro gem. It's really nice, but I am not a huge fan of how the retro gem fits into the different slim models. I really feel like they should have put more effort into creating like unique kits for each revision of the slim, like a different flex. And I know that would be costly because there are several different revisions of the slim, but it seems like it would have been the right way to go, because as it is, it's pretty jank and I don't love it. I mean, I do retro gem installs, you know, I'm not afraid to do them. I don't love it. I like bespoke solutions that are made specifically for a thing, you know? I don't know what's up with this shell. But the SD card slot doesn't align perfectly. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to take my file and just barely file out the edge of that vent. I don't like doing it, So I like for this to be as no cut as possible, but sometimes it just doesn't line up perfectly. It's a very tight space that it's got to fit into, so... Yep, that did it. So just a tiny bit of filing on the right-hand side there. And now the SD card goes in and out smoothly. Patrick, yes. This one here is yours. This one here is a different customer's. Okay, what we're going to do real quick is we're going to test Patrick's console to make sure that it is functional before we go any further in the installation. And we're gonna, oh, Patrick, your laser is cooked, man. I'm sure you know this, but there's no point in even testing a disc. Your laser is cooked. I can tell that just by looking at it. Well, it turns on. That's basically all I can test at this point, so we'll just go ahead with the installation. Well, you know, Patrick, that is a sensible reason to do this mod, certainly. Certainly. Guys, look at how cooked this laser is. This is crazy. That's not even a lens anymore. That's just melt. That's just melted. I'm sure that's just I'm sure that's one of those crashed mech-cons. I hear about that. The mech-con crashing and burning out the laser. Well, that screw, there it is, achieved escape velocity and flew away. For those who weren't here at the beginning of the stream, what I'm doing today, and I'm going to try to do this with every customer install, whenever people send in consoles to be installed, I'd like to stream all of them. So if you send in a console to me, I'll send you an email whenever your console is up to be installed, and then we'll live stream it. And that way you get to see the process that goes into installing your particular console. And, you know, it's cool. I think it's a cool idea. That way you can see exactly what's going on with your stuff. You know, PCI Tech, there are good replacements, actually. There are new production. Okay, I don't have any of them here right now, but there are new production lasers for these, and they work. They actually work. You can go on Amazon right now and buy a PS2 Slim 70,000 series laser, and it works. So If you've got a burned out laser, you can absolutely replace them. The problem with Slims is the ribbon. You mean the ribbon cable for the laser? You can get replacements for those too. Oh, you know what? I know what you're talking about. Yeah, sometimes the ribbon gets bent out of shape to where it lifts up above the location of the laser. But you can actually get replacement ribbons like these these are actually thicker than the original stock ribbons, and they will these thicker ribbon cables don't bend up like the old ones do. So if you're worried about that, you can replace the ribbon. I get these off of AliExpress, but that I think you probably get these on Amazon too, if you just need one of them. All right, we're gonna switch over to the microscope and get started getting this iFlash Flex installed. All looks good. Oh, Patrick, well, thank you. I do try to make clean, you know, nice looking mods. The M2PS2 is a really interesting mod, but the amount of cutting you have to do to make it fit is just, I feel like it's kind of extreme. So that's one of the reasons that I was not happy with the options that were available, and you know, went about designing this in the first place. Because other than that, the M2PS2 is a really interesting mod, but it's just so destructive. Let's take a look here, see how we did. Well, let's see. We're not making a super strong connection here. Nice middle resistor. There we go. Oh. Perfectionism has gotten the best of me here. There we go. All right, now this one is one of the last V12 kits that I have. These were sold in the very first round. So, none of the kits that I'm selling now have the V12 power board. So that's why this looks a little bit different than what you saw earlier. But it's the same concept, it's just a slightly different design for the power board back when this was originally designed only for the V12 model consoles. Okay, real quick, I'm going to check the fit of the SD card slot before we seal it all together. That looks pretty good. Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, with the 128 gigabyte cap, that's just way too restrictive for PS2. I can't imagine trying to do a PS2, to have a PS2 library squeezed down to 128 gigs. You're gonna be swapping cards all the time. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do the test wire again to test the iFlash before we remove the SD card slot. Just run a wire between the 3.3 volt pad here and the 3.3 volt pad here on the power board. And just like last time, we're going to do a real quick test without the heatsink on. But we're going to power it up, see if the drive is detected, and then power it right back down. So it won't be a problem. And there you go. The drive is detected, so we're good. You know, the main flex soldering is good. And we'll go ahead and get to work on the iFlash. You know, I would like to get more coverage. Certainly. Yeah, part of it is it's kind of just the channels, the people that you run with, you know. I spend very little of my time in the communities where all of these people who do all this coverage hang out. So I think I just get less visibility there. My main squeeze as far as forums go, which is where most of this stuff gets talked about, is the arcade projects forum, because frankly, most of what I do is arcade stuff. My console stuff is a limited, small portion of what I do. So, I post my projects there, but like people like Bob from Retro RGB, they don't go to the arcade projects forum very often. I mean, Bob's on there, but rarely is he ever really on there because arcade stuff's not his main focus. It'd probably help me to get involved in some other communities, but I don't know. I'm a simple man. I like the communities I've got. I like the people that I know. All right. Let's go ahead and install the extender, and then we can get this thing put back together. Snap in place, will ya? There we go. All right. Now we'll do a test here. See how we did. Hey, there we go. Now this time, I'm going to work a little bit smarter than last time. I'm going to get the next one out of the box and test it before this one goes through its whole test process. So we're going to unplug this one real quick. We'll get the other one out of the box, test it real quick just to make sure it's working. And then we'll plug this one back in and let it do its Metal Gear Solid 3 test while we're working on the other one. And this one's order 4067. Oh, you're okay. Okay, I see what's going on here. You're the one. Yours is the one that has the Super Nintendo in it as well. I'm not going to do the Super Nintendo tonight. So that one, I'll do that. I don't want to delay shipping this out, but I don't want to. I'm not set up for what I need to do on that one tonight. Would you be okay with me doing the Super Nintendo off stream? Because it's kind of a odd situation with the Super Nintendo. Not really an install. Okay. Cool. I'll do the Super Nintendo tomorrow, and I'll get it shipped out. I'll get the whole order shipped out tomorrow. I forgot about yours, the kind of unique situation with yours. Okay, let's do a quick test here. And since this one is a retro gem, I'm going to run a diagnostic on the retro gem this time. I didn't do it last time in testing, but now that I think about it, it's a good idea to run a diagnostic on the retro gem before I open it up to make sure that there are no issues. Hold on, my monitor can't accept 1440. I'm going to drop it down to 1080 temporarily because my monitor, the capture card can see it, but my monitor cannot, and I need to be able to see it on my monitor. Okay, let's see. We'll run a debug. Okay, looks good. All right, so we know baseline, the retro gem is working. That's what we want to see. Oh, one other thing I want to test before I open your console up. I'm going to pop in a disk here and verify that your drive is working before I open it. Yep, your drive works. That's good. Okay, I'm going to set yours back over here in your box. And we'll finish up Patrick's. I'm going to let this sit. I'm confident it's working, so I'm going to put it back together, but I'm going to let it sit and test once I get to put it back together. We'll just let it run until we need to move on. Patrick, well, I guess it depends on what you mean by HDMI adapter. There are, so which, you're using a component to HDMI adapter. What are you using at the moment? Is it like one of those Bitfunks or Kaiko or something like that adapters, or a no name, or do you know? Yeah, I would say a RetroTink 5X is what I use here in the workspace, and I think the RetroTink is fantastic. The OSSC is good, but the issue with the OSSC is that the best deinterlacing you've got is Bob deinterlacing, which is, in my opinion, pretty hideous. So I hate Bob deinterlacing, but if you can swing the cost of a RetroTink 5X, the motion adaptive deinterlacing on the 5X is incredible. It makes PS2 games look so good. And if you can really swing a RetroTink 4K, then that'd be even more amazing. But the I wouldn't. I have one. I have one in my actual game room, but I wouldn't recommend that you buy one. They're insanely expensive. All right, I'm gonna let this sit for a while, Patrick, and do some, just let it burn in, test a little bit. And then while that's happening, I'm gonna move on to the next order. Let's see. Go ahead and update the order number. 4067. Okay, so well, the problem with the morph is that there's no analog inputs for it right now. Now, once the analog bridge comes out, it may be a decent value compared to the 5X, but that's kind of hard to say at this point with it not being out yet. Okay, the Wi-Fi board's in a totally different spot on this one, although it is disconnected. That's a bit of an oversight there. Have you had any trouble with your Wi-Fi? I bet in that location, the Wi-Fi connector gets pinched a little bit. I'll make sure to route that wire a little bit further out of the way here whenever I reassemble it. Okay, this one's got digital audio, so we need to remove that temporarily. You know, it could have disconnected during shipping, or it could have been disconnected and still worked anyway. I've actually seen that happen with a ESP32 with no antenna connected to it. Still was able to get enough signal to connect to Wi-Fi and be able to do like web UI stuff on a Blue Retro. So it's probably not getting very strong signal, but it might have still worked without the antenna being fully connected. Can I buy one off it? You mean, can you buy a pre-made, like a pre-modded console and then send the retro gem in to be installed into it? Yeah, we could work that out. We could definitely work that out. I'll have some more pre-modded consoles for sale, so... My favorite series of PS2. I like the 3500. I know nobody likes that one. I understand why. I think the 3900 series still has the iLink port. So it's probably the 3900 series, but the 3500 series I have a soft spot for because I've had a bunch of them over the years. All right, let's hop over to the microscope. It is super loud. That is true. The 3900 series is crazy loud. That's what my main PS2 is right now, is a 3900. Or, no, my bad. It's a 3500. My main PS2 is 3500, but I know the 3900 is just as loud. This looks suspiciously like it has been worked on before. Is that true? This does not look like factory solder here. That's not a problem, by the way. I'm just saying. Looks like somebody's been in here trying to do an IDE mod before. It's good. He couldn't get Gus's flex to work, so. Interesting. Well. That increases my level of concern a bit. Although I have heard that Gus's Flex is extremely difficult to install. So, haven't tried it myself. All looks good. Yeah, I have encountered a couple of PS2s that just don't work with this mod. And it's usually the reason a lot of times that they don't work, whenever they don't, is that the IDE controller chip is bad. And you would never know that normally with a PS2 Slim because they don't use IDE. So under normal operating conditions, it would never come up. But a lot of times these PS2s might potentially have a bad IDE controller, and that would have never been caught in quality, QA testing or anything like that, because Sony never connected anything up to the IDE chip. But I've seen that a couple of times. We're going to hope that that's not the case for your PS2. There we go. That may not be the issue, though, here. We'll find out here in just a second. It may have been something else. It's a possibility, so that's the thing. The fact that IDE is even in the PS2 Slim is kind of like it's just a fluke. Because it really shouldn't be there, but the reason it's there is because they use the same chipset for the Slim as the final 50,000 series fat PS2s. And so it just, like as an artifact of the fat PS2 design, it just has the IDE controller in there. Okay, I'm going to do a quick fit check here to see how the SD card lines up before we completely lock it in place. Yep. That one's good. It's a little tight, but I don't know if I can get it much better than that. Let's see. Yeah, it's lined up. So this power board indexes off of the edge of the USB port. And I think sometimes these USB ports are installed a little bit further to the left or a little bit further to the right. And sometimes that bumps the alignment of the SD card slot out just barely. So I may have to do a slight bit of filing on the edge of this slot as well. That'll probably do. Let's see. Yeah, that should be fine. Just a minor amount of filing right there on the edge. You can barely even see it. But that'll probably be fine. We'll check again once we get things reassembled. Alright, let's install a little test wire here. And we'll find out if the iFlash is detected. Okay. We're just going to do a quick test. Just like well, every time. Every one that we've worked on tonight. We're going to power it on. Check and see if the card is detected. And then we're going to power it back off. That's weird. RetroTink's not getting any video or audio. A power cycle the RetroTink. Sometimes it needs that. Oh, you know what? Hold on. This PS2 might be in RGB mode. Yeah, that's what it is. It's in RGB mode. Nothing to worry about. Hey, the hard drive's detected. You're good. You're good. You're golden. You're golden. You don't have anything to worry about. Yeah, for some reason, the RetroTink, one thing that annoys me about the RetroTink is that it doesn't do component through the SCART port like an OSSC does. And so if it did component through the SCART port, then I would just use a SCART cable all the time. And I wouldn't have to worry about whether it's in RGB mode or not, because I would still get video. But because it doesn't do component over the SCART port, you have to actually switch cables. So sometimes you get no signal like we did there. And it kind of throws you on a wild goose chase if you don't think of it, which sometimes I don't. All right, let's carefully flip this back over and remove the iFlash. So yeah, the SD card adapter might have been bad, or your installer might have damaged the flex cable somewhere in the process, or I mean, who knows what happened. It's hard to say. But your PS2 is fine. Which is great news. Are you using a RetroTink 5X or a 4K? Because the 4K does component over the SCART cable, but the 5X doesn't. Yeah, yeah, the 4K it has all the features. The 5X, that's one of the only features that I feel like it really is missing, is that it's just not as flexible when it comes to inputs. I really like the 5X. Like, it's a great piece of hardware, but it can't do component over SCART, and it can't do, I don't think it can do RGB with sync on green over the component input either. It's kind of specific. The inputs are really strict, which is kind of annoying, because I had I've got a pile of OSSCs around here. I think I've got 4 of them. And I'm so used to being able to run basically anything through any input. The 5X kind of throws me off a little bit. But for me, back here in the workspace on the bench, it makes more sense to have a 5X because it has more inputs. So for capture, it's better. I can capture S video, you know, composite video if I'm working on something that has that, where I can't do that on the OSSC without an add-on. And I don't have any of those add-ons, so Really puts a damper on the whole idea. Okay. Go ahead and get this reinstalled into the shield. Let's see. I can make a cutout here. Your reset wire is really tight, and it interferes with the 3D print, but that's okay. I can make an opening for it to pass under without pinching it. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, that won't pinch it at all. Oh yeah, I've never tried to do... So, I have a G-SCART, and I run everything RGB. And everything that has component, I actually have digital mods in, and I run them through an HDMI switch. So, kind of avoid that issue, but I could see how, but I don't have anything. I don't have any systems in my setup that is. Yeah, you know that makes sense. The Comp2 RGB is probably the thing that messes it up. Maybe you could get one of those composite. Huh. Surely there's some sort of an adapter that you could use just to pass composite through straight to this to one of the SCART ports in the G-Comp or in the G-SCART. Because the Comp2 RGB is your problem there for sure. Because it probably strips the luma, like the color burst, out of the composite signal. So the chroma is probably gone and it only passes through the luma signal. Let's see. Just remove this temporary wire here. Okay, let's see. This needs to pass through here, so I need to cut a little bit away. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, you know, all those composite to SCART adapters do is they just connect the composite signal to the composite pin in the SCART connector. And the RetroTink 4X is able to do composite through SCART. So obviously, so if you just pass the composite signal straight to through the SCART switch to the RetroTink 4X, I would imagine it would work. Unless, the only thing I can think of that might impact that is the G-SCART switch itself. I don't know. Does it do anything? Does it process the sync signal at all? Because the thing is that composite video is passed through, I believe, on the same pin as sync. So if this G-SCART processes the sync signal at all, it might potentially interfere. It might be interfering with it as well. But I'm not sure about that. Okay. Retro Gem is all back together. Oh. Let's go ahead and remove this SD card slot. Yeah, sync regeneration would definitely strip important parts of the video signal out. But if you got it turned off, if it does just pass it directly through whenever it's turned off, then it should be fine. We're done. Okay, we'll go ahead and fire it up for a test. Okay, Retro Gym is still good. And look at that, we got games. We're gonna fire up Metal Gear Solid 3 again, because as I said, it is my favorite test game. Oh. For some reason, Metal Gear Solid 3 specifically does not like my off-brand free MC boot card. You have to take it out and put it back in every time you run Metal Gear Solid 3. And it's the only game that does that. I don't know if it's something to do with Magic Gate, maybe, but... Oh yeah, the digital audio cable. It's one of those things that I don't understand why it's not just part of the Flex. It's a weird thing. Yeah, but I mean, why not just make it part of the design? It just seems so obvious. I mean, the PS2 is capable of digital audio. Why wouldn't you want it?
World War II, the world was split into two, East and West. This marked the beginning of the era called the Cold War.
Well, we're looking good. I'm sure that the video doesn't look very good on the stream, but that's just because I think you've got a LCD grid filter or something on the Retro Gym that is not playing nice with the resolution that the stream is running at. But it looks good on my monitor, so...
Equipment check. Arm main parachute. All right. You ready to go? Drop zone still showing a high pressure mass. Cav okay. Good. We've got high visibility.
Alrighty, well... We're going to call that a success there, and we'll go ahead and reassemble it. see. Can I route this nicer? Yeah, I think that's going to be better for clearance on the motherboard. So it sits straight in the shell. They don't show you which profile. You know, I have a retro gem in one of my in one of my PS2 Slims that I tested, that I built for testing for the iFlash. And I've never even really messed with it, to be honest with you. I've never messed with any of the settings, really. Yeah, I really like my RetroTink 4K. For me, when I do digital out mods, I basically only do them just to get pure digital signal to my RetroTink now. Like, because the Tink, I mean, I can use decimation and whatnot to get pixel correct, you know, pixel accurate outputs that I can scale with the Tink 4K. If you got a RetroTink 4K, it kind of changes your priorities with this sort of stuff, for sure. Yeah, I just have a dedicated game room that all of my game systems are in. So I run everything through a big HDMI switch and then the G-SCART for all the analog consoles and everything. All right, well, there you go. Your SD card comes out nice and smooth. Like so. And now that we got everything put back together, we'll do one more little test run here. Just to verify once again that everything's good. Do you know which OPL you're going to be using? Are you going to use the official OPL, or are you going to use the EXFAT build of OPL? Uh-oh. It didn't detect the SD card this time. Let's reboot it real quick. Okay, it detected the drive, but it's not reporting the correct information about the SD card. Hold on. Yeah, it's not reporting the correct information. Huh, okay. Let's try the other SD card I've got sitting here. This Lexar card is not... it works well, but sometimes it acts up with the iFlash. This PNY, the PNY Pro Elite cards are the ones that I recommend specifically, because they seem to work super reliably. No, it's not detecting that correctly either. Interesting. Interesting. And here I thought we were all good. Let's pop her back open real quick and double check a few things. Okay, it's detected it again. I reseated the connection, the ribbon cable, and I loosened the screws that the 3D printed mount are connected to, and allowed the mount to slide over a little bit because the cable was being pulled a little bit tight. So what might have happened is whenever I clamped everything down and put in the screws in the shell, it might have tweaked that cable over just a little bit because it is a pretty tight fit in there. So now the cable is a little bit looser. Let's seal it back up and see. Well, hold on. Let's jump back into OPL. Make sure it's detected there. And then we'll just seal it back up into the shell and see if the problem comes back or not. Okay, OPL detected it. Okay, let's put it back in the shell. See if that problem returns. Oh, the Wi-Fi came unsnapped again. Yeah, I think something about putting the shell together causes that to become disconnected. I think it pinches it somewhere and oh. Yeah. That's what causes that cable to come undone. It gets pinched on the top shell. I'm gonna reroute this wire. Let's see. I'm gonna route it around this way because it seems to get pinched up against the top shell and then gets popped loose by the top shell. But if it's routed over this way, it should avoid the area that is pinching on it. Okay, got everything tightened back down. Let's fire it back up and check it again with it all sealed up. Yep, it detected it correctly. We'll reboot into OPL. Okay, looks good. You're okay. You got nothing to worry about. Your PS2's fine. Just had that cable a little too tight. Alrighty. Well, this concludes... Oh. Come on, detect my memory card. There you go. This concludes what I had planned to work on tonight. So I'm going to call it. But thanks to everybody who showed up. It was fun. We had a lot of chat. I enjoy chatting with everybody who shows up to the streams. If your console was one of the ones that was worked on today, I hope you enjoyed seeing that process happen. I am going to be doing another stream Monday, because I do have more installs that I need to do. So we're going to have another stream Monday that takes care of some of the other installs that are here waiting to get done. And then periodically in the future, we'll just be doing this more and more. But sorry about your heart. Look, I understand. You already spent the money on the retro gym. You don't want to end up having the console you've poured all of your effort into have some sort of an issue that prevents you from being able to install this last mod. But you're good. You're all good. So anyways, so I will see whoever does want to show up on Monday. I'll see you on Monday. And beyond that, I'll catch you guys later.